Hello and welcome to another edition of Let's Play TEW 2016. This is WCW 2000. What I want to know first, before I get into things, is do you guys want me to keep phasing out TEW 2013, or I know how some people hate me saying TEW. Do you want me to keep phasing out Total Extreme Wrestling 2013 for the new game, or do you not care, or what have you? Just let me know in the comment section what you would want me to do, and where you may want me to go with the WWE 2015 Let's Play at this point. Because as of right now, as you can tell by the top left corner, this is TEW 2016, and this is WCW 2000. What I'm going to say now is something that I should have said in the background video. On April 10th, 2000, WCW hit the reset button. But it was too little too late for their reset. And everything changed in one night. That was the problem. Everything changed in one night. Everything changed because WCW cared so much about the ratings and not enough about the pay-per-view buys. Their mind wasn't where it should be. And yes, though many people had phased out or turned off WCW and were more fixated on what was going on over on the USA Network with WWE, there was still an audience for WCW. Now you go back and you ask Kevin Sullivan, Kevin Nash, Vince Russo, Ed Ferrara, what was the problem around this time? They say management had no patience. You're right. They're probably right. They lived through it. But also, that's what everybody kept saying. Non-wrestling people don't have the wrestling mentality when it comes to booking, when it comes to long-term planning, when it comes to a long-term direction, because they're not wrestling people. I mean, look at WWE, and you tell me that WWE has a long-term plan nowadays. Because there's not wrestling people in charge of the company. Now, as far as the future goes for WCW in this, I'm not waiting till April 10th. January week 1, the first week, the news rings through the locker room of WCW that a new face has taken over the booking of the company, and that, in no uncertain terms, the former leader, the fearless leader of WCW, the man who is the reason why WCW even stayed with Ted Turner takes full control of WCW, and the man who was trained in booking by Paul Heyman, Gabe Sapolsky, who is my user character, has taken over the book for WCW, and things will change. And it ain't gonna take 3-4 weeks. Things change starting tonight. Tonight, as you can tell, we hit the reset button. We're starting from scratch. And without further ado or delay, let's jump right into it and get things under control, and get things undergo. We kick off with the pre-show as Mike Rotunda goes up against Reno in the pre-show, and Mike Rotundo shows why he still has a job with WCW, as he does a pretty solid job against the young upstart from Las Vegas in Reno. But now we jump right into this week, the first episode of Nitro for the year 2000. The new millennium kicks off with the newest installment of the New World Order. And the newest installment of the New World Order sees Bret Hart, Scott Steiner, Jeff Jarrett, and the Outsiders in the ring, talking about how successful 1999 was for the New World Order, and how 2000 will be no different for the NWO. However, that is exactly what Terry Funk, WCW commissioner, does not want to hear, because Terry Funk comes out and says that this year his New Year's resolution is to officially rid WCW of the NWO. And it starts tonight because Terry Funk makes two separate singles matches, as it will be Booker T against Scott Hall and Scott Steiner versus Roddy Piper later tonight here on Nitro. And that is two separate singles matches, but instead of having him have two segments, I just made him announce it as a tag team match, but it's two separate matches. Speaking of matches, here we go with our first match on Nitro tonight, as Berlin goes against the artist formerly known as Prince Iaukea. And Berlin gets the win over the Prince in what the game calls a terrible match, and I would agree, considering the in-ring performance for both men wasn't over 45. But as far as Berlin goes, he got a 43 and Prince got a 37, so you tell me why the match was a terrible match as pertains to whatever standards this game sets aside. Now we move backstage as an unfamiliar face walks into the camera shot with a familiar face, as a man who introduces himself to Norman Smiley as Mike Sanders starts talking to Norman Smiley, and just says, "Norman, here's my business card. I help people bring new life into their careers, even when they think it's not possible to do it. I do it. And I'm going to do the exact same thing for you, or I could. You just got to give me the chance. So give me a call sometime." I'm going to say yes to this because I'm pretty sure I know what they're talking about. I think they were talking about Norman Smiley turning heel, but let's just save and wait and assume I'm right. As far as this next match goes, well, yes, you may have noticed before the show started that Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, and Shane Douglas all are in the final month of their contract, much like they were actually in January 2000. As most of you know, in January 2000, you know what happened as far as those men I just mentioned, and their future in WCW, and their futures in WCW, and where they ended up. Or at least where 4 of them ended up. As far as things go, these guys, and including Eddie and Benoit, all started with bad, horrible momentum, and that is the purpose of this match, because, simple, it's just to build them back up a little bit. And now we go to Gene Okerlund in the ring, who's standing by with Shane Douglas, and of course, the franchise has free roam, and I tell him, explain why Saturn and Malenko will be tag team champions, and exactly why Conan and Mysterio have no chance to become the new WCW World Tag Team Champions, and that the Revolution will finally take down and send the filthy animals away with nothing. Now we head backstage as Scott Steiner, Kevin Nash, and the rest of the NWO are hanging out in the NWO locker room, and they are discussing their matches later tonight, as Scott Hall has a match against Booker T, Steiner has one against Roddy Piper, and Bret Hart has the Hitman Open Challenge tonight in the main event. But that's later tonight. For right now, it is time for the first title to be on the line, and it is the Hardcore title, as we have a new Hardcore champion, and that champion is the Beast from the East, Bam Bam Bigelow, as Bigelow defeats Hugh Morris, Big Vito, Vampiro, and Buzzkill in a 5-way Hardcore title match. So Bam Bam can't do hardcore matches, Buzzkill can't do hardcore matches, but the other guys can. So the one guy who won the match is the only guy, outside of Buzzkill, who can't do the match. Something's wrong with that picture. But, what are you going to do? So now Rick Steiner comes out. And Rick Steiner announces the fact that he is in the number one contender he is in the number one contender tournament to crown the new number one contender for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. And Steiner talks about how he's always been considered a tag team wrestler, how he's never been able to stand up on his own 2 feet and show what he truly can do. But for the longest time, he's always been told how gifted, how athletically gifted he is, how gifted he is in the ring, how talented he is. But yet, he's never gotten the recognition for it. And then he looks at his hand. I am here to tell each and every one of you, this tournament is my opportunity to show exactly what I can do in this ring, and when I get and what I can do when I get an opportunity. I will become the new number one contender for the WCW World Heavyweight title, because it's about time that the dog-faced gremlin shows exactly what he can do. But Rick Steiner is shockingly interrupted by the returning Macho Man Randy Savage, as Randy Savage makes his way to the ring and basically tells Rick Steiner, I'm sorry, this is the problem with doing everything improv. As far as Randy goes, Randy would have free roam in the promo, because he's Randy Savage. what would be the only thing I include for him as far as bullet points? I would tell Randy, the only thing I want to hear from you is, nice story, Rick. But this isn't Disney. This is WCW. And you as the dog-faced gremlin should know, just because you've never gotten the chance doesn't mean you deserve it. And doesn't mean you're going to get anywhere without earning it. I'm in the tournament too. And if you want to get that shot against Bret Hart, you gotta get through me. That's the only thing I would tell Randy that he has to say, and other than that, I would let Randy decide what is said in the promo and how it's said, and how he builds up the fact that he will be taking on the dog-faced Gremlin Rick Steiner, this Thursday on Thunder. And speaking of the filthy animals, and specifically speaking of Conan and Rey Mysterio, much like Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn, come into this season with very, very bad momentum, and that is the purpose for this match. And I know for a fact 9 out of 10 of you are thinking that, oh, you're building up to the filthy animals against the Revolution at Sold Out. You're right, I am. I'm not gonna lie. First things first though, Sold Out isn't called Sold Out anymore. I moved Mayhem to January, so Mayhem has taken the place of Sold Out, and a new pay-per-view will be seen in November of this year instead of Mayhem, as Mayhem is now in January of this year. But either way, Rey Mysterio and Conan go up against Crowbar and David Flair, and the Filthy Animals win. Rey Mysterio was the highlight of the match, basically, and head and shoulders better than everybody else. And now, much like you saw earlier with Shane Douglas being the mouthpiece for the group, Eddie Guerrero jumps in and gives Conan and Rey a little help in cutting the promo on Shane Douglas and the rest of the Revolution, and why Shane Douglas better watch his back, because if you're underestimating us, you will regret it, and you will end up looking at the new WCW World Tag Team Champions. And it'll only be because you didn't take us seriously. Now we move forward, and the next match is the first of many for the WCW World Title Tournament, as Scott Steiner goes up against Roddy Piper in this double elimination tournament, as Scotty gets the win in a good match against the Hot Rod here on Nitro. Nothing much else to say, in all honesty. Now we slide backstage as Tony says that somebody's been attacked backstage, and they're not sure what's going on or what happened. But now we head backstage and we find out that the man that was attacked was Jim Duggan. And Duggan is found beaten down, stunned, and concussed, and has no idea who attacked him and what happened. Now we move to a video package. Obviously, it's a vignette highlighting or hyping the debut of somebody called the American Nightmare, who will be coming to WCW very, very soon. Now we move forward as Diamond Dallas Page goes up against Ron Killings. Yes, this is before, I presume this is before R-Truth had his first stay in the WWE as K-Quick. And this is also way before he became R-Truth. But either way, DDP stole the show tonight with a 78 in-ring performance. And, a decent match considering who he was up against. What exactly are they telling me to do here? Oh, change your gimmick. See, in this game, you can in this game now you can choose when you change the people's gimmicks. You don't have to change them right out of the gate. Or immediately the first time that they show up on TV, you can build up the gimmick turn or the gimmick change. I don't know how that works, but however it works, that's a new thing that you can do in this game. Speaking of the World Title Tournament, DDP and Kim talk about how Paige is ready to take the next step up, and how he was watching Piper against Steiner, and he's ready for his match next week against Double J Jeff Jarrett in the World Title Tournament. And now we move forward as Scott Hall goes up against Booker T. And however, the match sees double disqualification when both men's tag team partners get involved, and you see Kevin Nash and Stevie Ray run in, and both men get involved, and chaos reigns supreme here tonight on Nitro as the Outsiders and and Harlem Heat. What originated as a one-on-one match degenerated into an all-out brawl between two of the more iconic teams in WCW, Harlem Heat and the Outsiders. I can tell you right now, things are just getting started between these two teams. And now we move to the thing that I mentioned earlier in the show, and that is the Hitman Challenge, as Bret Hart issues an open challenge to any man on the roster to come out and face him one-on-one right now. And that man to accept this challenge is Eddie Guerrero, as Eddie Guerrero faces the Hitman in what was a match that featured good wrestling and got a decent reaction from the crowd. But either way, Bret Hart walks out with the victor, and shockingly, when Bret Hart's celebrating his victory with his belt, he's up on the second rope, then he goes off the second rope, and you think that he's just a little shaken, that he, got off, maybe turned around too fast and got down too fast, but he tries to shake it off, and before we know it, Bret Hart's down. Bret Hart collapses in the middle of the ring, and nobody knows what the heck is going on, but all we know is, here comes EMTs as Bret Hart gets stretched out of the ring. You don't hear nothing from the announcers. Bret Hart, you just see the shock on the face of the fans as they wonder what's wrong with Bret Hart, what's going on, as Bret Hart collapsed right in the middle of the ring and is stretched out of the arena as the show goes to black, and we end the first episode of Nitro of the new year. And though they could tell us that we don't have enough interesting storylines going on right now, we actually increased our popularity in 23 regions. And though we did lose popularity in 11, we still conquered it as far as I'm concerned, because we increased in 23 regions, which is a lot better than we get normally with the WWE. So, when I told you that we're not waiting till April, it starts tonight as far as things changing, do you think that this is a great starting point for the new era of WCW, as we try and stabilize WCW before they originally tried to, and we try and give a pair of fresh eyes the opportunity to take care of the company that was once on top of the wrestling world. So now what I ask of you is to let me know down in the comment section, what was your favorite part of the show, what was your least favorite part of the show, what would you have done differently if this was you, and also to change it up a little bit, I want to know your opinion. What is your opinion of how the show ended with Bret Hart collapsing in the middle of the ring and getting stretchered out? Let me know all that and more down in the comment section, and if you liked the video, leave a like, or subscribe to the channel for more content just like this that you can only find right here at Wrestling Express. See you on Thunder.